What is something that you're really excited about outside of Restoring Hope in your life?
I've enjoyed flying, although I've not done that much lately. That was kind of the only habit or hobby. It's becoming a habit, but I do enjoy it. It was a lifelong dream, and I really didn't try to go after that. I had dismissed that even as being a possibility. And then probably 8 years ago, kind of had the opportunity with a guy that I met that did some of that. And he just really challenged me to, if it's something I wanted to do, to go up what they call a discovery flight. So, I did that, fell in love with it, kind of now try to do a little of that here and there. But that's about the only real hobby. But the stuff that would probably right now be more fulfilling or exciting, maybe it would be the word, would be I'm doing some work with churches again. As you know, that was kind of my background, being in ministry full time before getting involved with Restoring Hope, and kind of put that on the shelf when I really stepped out in 2015 to focus on Restoring Hope full time. Had a lot of invitations to speak, a lot of invitations to do some different things, but felt like that might cause me to have a split focus in that period of time. So it's probably been 6 or 7 years since I've even really moved back into that space. And so recently I've been taking on more speaking engagements, Tennessee, Arkansas, different places. But I find that I'm enjoying more than the speaking aspect of it. I'm enjoying just sitting down with the leadership. Typically, they're asking me to stay with them another day to just kind of sit and walk through different leadership dynamics, things that maybe we could speak into to help them. So I find really an enjoyment in that. I think that's probably an overall theme for me, as I just enjoy leadership. I enjoy organizational health. I enjoy watching people grow is just really fulfilling. So for me, that's been a new discovery. I didn't think that I would find myself enjoying maybe that side of it as much, because I'd been in it for 30 years and frankly was kind of like tired, burnout. And now there's just kind of a new life that's resurging right now around that. So yeah, I think that's probably the thing I find right now a lot of fulfillment. The other issue, you didn't ask it, but obviously a lot of people who may be watching this are aware that Kim, my wife, back in August, we ended up September, I guess it was September actually, discovering that she had come down with endocarditis, which basically sepsis of the blood. We didn't know that was going on.
Scary.
Fast forward that, what that has caused me to do is really stop and reflect on a lot of things in life differently now.
Yep.
I think when you're young, it's easy to just assume you'll live forever, assume that everything's just going to be great, health is going to always be great. And I think those kind of moments are marker moments in life. And so a lot of my focus now, quite honestly, is on Kim. And now that she has come through that, thankfully, she made it through the open heart surgery and is doing phenomenal. But it has sort of created a reset of, what is it you want out of life, babe?
Right.
What is it you would like to do? So I think that's probably going to open up some new things. She loves to hike. I could take it or leave it, quite honestly. But I think that may be some things that we may do a little bit of travel for her.
Yeah.
I don't need that, but I'm trying to be open to the fact that it's time to kind of let her enjoy some things in life. So I'm sure she'll be thrilled to hear that if she hears this.
I bet. Yeah.
So that's kind of helped create a new season of sorts, as well as the consulting with churches and stuff. So.
Welcome to the Hopeful Connection, a resource that connects you to the disability community. I'm Whitley Lemon, your host for today's show. So today I am getting to sit down with Jeff Smith, one of our owners of Restoring Hope. And if for those that maybe aren't as familiar with who you are and your background, can you just kind of share with our listeners who you are and how you joined Restoring Hope?
Grew up in West Plains. We were like 4 generations deep. Kim and I both. West Plains is our hometown. And we ended up childhood sweethearts, met in, I guess, sophomore year, and have dated throughout the last 2 years of high school.
Wow.
And then got married in 1988. Been married ever since, 2 children. About that time, I had really felt a leading to go into vocational ministry. I thought I was going to go into education, be a teacher, coach. Kind of that path was what appealed to me.
Yep.
And sitting in a biology class one day, I just found myself really reflecting on, is this what I want to do with my life? Probably didn't help that I was failing that biology class. That was probably quite a motivator as well to make me rethink life.
I would say,
but
yeah.
It led to me then just beginning that journey in life. And so I was 30, I think we were 30 years, 32, 3 years, youth pastor, was a small groups guy out in Indiana at a church there. We were on staff at churches in Kansas City, in Indianapolis area, in the Hamilton County area north of Indianapolis. And then pastored several churches, St. Louis, a little bitty town south of West Plains was our first church pastor there and there. So really found my journey to be that of just working with churches, working with people, and thought that would be where my kind of career would end up. And in 2008, we just felt like we wanted to come back to our hometown and start a new church. It was totally from the ground up, and felt really excited about it. Wasn't obviously, when you plant a church and you have nothing, you're just not sure, is this going to work? Is this going to take off? And it was pretty amazing what started to happen. The church eventually, I think, within about 3 or 4 years, was running 1,200 people. I mean, it was just pretty cool to watch. But in the process, Chuck, who is the other owner of Restoring Hope, was attending the church, and one thing led to another. We became a host home. And we, some might ask, well, why did you get into, why did you do that? And
right.
I think it's like anyone else in most cases. We were on a pastor's salary. We were church planners, which typically you're not paid like an established church would be paid. So it became a financial opportunity,
right,
for lack of a better way to say it.
Supplementing your income.
It supplemented the income. Yeah. I was really big on making sure that our staff would receive any increase as a church group, because they were sacrificing equal to what we were. And this really gave us the opportunity to kind of take care of that supplemental income, to where we weren't as much of a burden on the church. I don't like to say the word burden, because I just think you should take care of people when they are giving themselves, to the vision and what's happening. So really we were focused on just taking care of our staff first, and found that this was a way for us to do that. And while I want to think that our motives and our intent was much deeper than that, on the surface, it truly was a financial situation.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting, and I'm sure many of the people watching the podcast may identify with this, if you do go into that and you see that as an opportunity to supplement income, it's amazing what begins to happen in your heart when the individuals you support move into your family. And so the young man that we had, incredible young man, like most of the kids we support and folks we support, some very challenging history with his own family.
Yep.
And to this day, he would probably tell you that's my mom and dad. And so we just found ourselves taking that role on, feeling more of that desire to help kind of channel his life in some of the better decisions, and maybe some of the things that he was finding himself trying to navigate through life as a young. He was probably 17, I would say, when he came to our house. And what was interesting about that, I have thought a lot about that here in the last few years, because as I sit down with host homes and I listen to some of their initial stories, I realize that we had all those same emotions. We went through all. You read the plan and you think, what have we done?
Yep.
Because I've yet to read a plan that doesn't give worst case scenario for every individual we support.
Yep.
And I often tell families, imagine if your life story was captured in a book in a 3-ring binder.
Yep.
And imagine if that story, that narrative focused primarily on the things that you did wrong.
Right.
That is what, unfortunately, we tend to do with the individuals we support. I understand the reason, because we don't want to blindside people. We don't want to surprise them with what's happening in the individual's life. But when you step into their shoes, it's just very interesting to ponder and process how would I feel if my whole life story was just in this 3-ring binder that everyone takes to my doctor's appointments, that everyone takes to my counseling appointment.
Can't imagine.
And so some of the things that people that are probably listening right now may be going through, I identify with. I mean, I lean into it because I think our host home time was 4 or 5 years before we stepped into a partnership with Chuck and the business, and felt very privileged with that opportunity that he extended to us. But it still is a very special time for me, because it is that life upon life moment, I like to call it. Yes, I'm an owner of Restoring Hope, and yes, we are around various events, and we go to the different things that happen with the company. But that will be the primary season of my journey through working with folks with disabilities, that we were truly in it day after day.
Yeah, you lived it.
We lived it.
Yeah.
One of the funniest stories from our family with this young man, he stayed downstairs. And one night, why, I have no clue, but he decided to play the Yellow Submarine song all night long. And Whitney, our daughter, still, and when that song comes on, she'll laugh, and it immediately takes us to that
Back
person,
to that moment,
and to that moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real power for anyone that may be out there listening right now, that you're struggling. You're going to have some rough times.
Yeah.
We could fill up an entire segment of podcast with the stories that I could share. Some funny, some were very dark moments late at night, trying to find an individual that had eloped, or dealing with someone that was, disrupting a home, becoming aggressive. But even in those moments, I would just drop this nugget for some folks out there that may be listening. That is when you make the greatest connection to those individuals. If people can ride out that storm, if they can make it through, hey, they put a hole in a wall, or hey, they threaten me and they're yelling and they're cursing at me. If they can just make it through that, there is something I found for us, and I believe I've seen it over and over. There's just something deeper happening in the heart of that individual. And I think they're waiting for us to give up on them.
Yeah.
They're waiting for us to just say, hey, we can't do this. And so when you can press through that, as difficult as it is, and I've had it all. I remember one night we had an individual in our home that we had this was when we were in ownership. We would often take in individuals that first came into Restoring Hope, because we were trying to figure out, is there a home? Where do they fit there? Some cases, we would have a home that would say, yeah, we don't think we could do that. So we would bring them back to our house, because Kim and I kept all our certifications during that time. And I remember one night, there was a young man that could have totally thrown me all over that house. No question in my mind. Had we come into any kind of physical altercation, I would have been on the losing end of that. And I remember saying to Kim, you and Whitney, go into the master bedroom, go into the closet, lock those doors, and do not come out.
Yeah.
If you hear me yell out, call 911, you can come out, or you can make, or don't come out, but make that call.
Right.
But those moments, they are incredibly challenging, but at the same time, if you can make it through those moments, unfortunately, in that particular instance, I think we were tying into trying to support an individual that needed different supports.
Right.
And
More
I know we
structured.
still probably get into some of those moments, but I think the thing that I would convey is, no matter how dark it may seem, there probably are worse stories out there.
Yeah.
There probably are people who've encountered some more difficult situations.
Yeah.
So very, very fulfilling. What began as a way to supplement an income has become there's a deeper purpose there. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a joy.
Yeah. And we're so glad to have you and share your
Thank you.
insight with us. You talk a lot about this passion for leadership. Obviously, it started when you were a lot younger and has transpired to what it is now with the agency. You started this Flywell Leadership Program within our agency. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Flywheel. I mean, it's we used that name on it because it was like, what do we call it? And I'd been reading a book by Jim Collins, Good to Great. I was exposed to that book years ago. In it, he talks about the concept of a flywheel. Everyone begins to think of a car or whatever they may have for imagery of that, and the teaching that he was putting forth in that content was that in any organization, a flywheel is the momentum that it may be really challenging to get that process rolling. It might be sales in the company. It might be the product moving down the line more efficiently. But he makes the case that if you can get that momentum going and you can focus on the one thing that really is the differentiating variable in your company, what is it that makes you different, and start focusing on turning that flywheel, that with every input of energy, it just picks up more speed and more speed and more speed. And the interesting parallel that probably some of our folks maybe have even actually touched the object I'm about to reference was at Silver Dollar City. There is this huge marble ball that sits in water. And I don't know if you've been there to see it, but and it just sits there. It's huge. It's heavy, but everyone, it's fun to kind of just watch people start rolling that in the water, and even though it's heavy and it takes a lot to get it started, you move it. Well, then if people are inclined to keep pushing on that and keep putting that energy into that movement, that ball can actually, even though it's granite or whatever it is they've used, that can actually get to where it moves pretty fast. It's impressive. And I was at Silver Dollar City one day watching that and processing a lot of that, and it hit me as I was thinking, what is the one thing in our organization that if we could get it moving, if we could get it rolling, and we could keep putting the energy into it, would just be our differentiating variable. And I'm convinced to this day it is still leadership and raising the level of leadership in the organization. Because anytime you can raise the level of leadership, the organization will follow that natural pull. John Maxwell years ago coined that phrase that everything rises and falls on leadership. And that, when you break that statement down, everything rises and falls on leadership. There is an up and down motion that when you tie it back, which direction it's going to go is directly tied back to the leader or the culture of leadership.
Right.
And so when I began to think about the flywheel and the spinning and the turning of input of motion, and then I began to think about Maxwell's everything rises and falls on leadership, I felt that we really needed to build something within our organization that would focus on developing leaders. And so in about 2017, 18, I began to just kind of mentally roll that around in my head.
You overcame those.
Yeah, I think I'm probably in one of the biggest right now within myself. And that is, anyone that knows the story, Chuck stepped out of day-to-day and retired in the end of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped out about mid-21. I think probably the end of that year is when we did, my official walking away. It's hard. It's hard to stay out of the way as a leader right now.
Yeah.
Because I think there's such a passion to continue to do whatever I can to help the organization. But the reality is, and I know I will embarrass her and others, Staci is already out leading any level of leadership that I would have ever seen in this industry. I think about our directors in their roles. They are out leading me right now. So I see that and I recognize it and I can identify it and celebrate it. I love that there are better leaders in our organization than what I could ever be, but it causes me to then try to figure out, okay, where's my contribution? Where's my role? What do I do? And so I think one of the challenges right now, and this is probably true for any leader that maybe has grown with their organization or they're later in their life or their career, and there may be some folks in that are listening right now, it's tough handing it off. It's not because you don't trust people. I'm all about trust.
Yeah.
By the way, another great book reference,
Yep.
Stephen Covey's Trust and Inspire. And then he also had the book, The Speed of Trust, phenomenal material. Trust is not at all a struggle for me because, it's interesting. I was reading some material here recently that kind of tied to the Gen X. I know they get thrown, or the millennials, rather, they get thrown under the bus. And unfairly so, because I think there's some great leadership. Most of our organization, quite frankly, is led by millennials.
Yep.
And so when I read that material, I'm like, well, they haven't met our people because, we have great young leaders.
Yeah.
But it talked about how that generation, and I believe it's an emerging dynamic in the corporate culture, they want autonomy. There's a certain level of autonomy they want. Now, we immediately go, well, what about accountability? Where does the accountability come from?
Right.
But I think when you understand that people can be trusted in their autonomy, and you don't hand them that full plate of ultimate autonomy unless they can handle that with the balance of accountability.
Right.
I think that is something that I am very comfortable with understanding. So let's let people run. We hired them. We've raised them up. We've invested in them.
Yep.
Let's let them run. But then for me, the bigger challenge is, okay, what's my new seat on the bus?
Right.
And so I think I'm kind of trying to figure out, am I just supposed to stand on the curb and wave goodbye at the bus that that will come back around the block at some point?
Yeah.
Or what does that look like? I think that's, when you say challenge, I think that for me is probably one of my greatest challenges. And obviously that lends itself to coming to terms with understanding my opinion is only that. It's an opinion. I'm an owner, but it's only an opinion. It doesn't make it the right one. When we lean into discussions or we have decisions, trying to give that room to breathe and let the organization breathe. Because I can be very strongly opinionated on things, and I can kind of die on those hills at times unnecessarily so. So I think that becomes, maybe for me right now, the greatest challenge is, what is the new identity of leadership for me?
Yeah.
And so we say, Jeff's retired. I go out and I do consulting stuff. There, if I'm being really honest with our family, our group, there's some guilt that I sit and feel, because here I am. Okay, I'm out here in Tennessee, or I'm in Florida, or I'm in Arkansas, and I should be with our team. I should be doing this same thing for our team. But I think I have to become comfortable with understanding the culture has been built at Restoring Hope.
Yep.
These are organizations that are seeking out more inputs and insight. So that's an internal struggle of being okay with taking my energies and kind of stepping out for engagements here and there, and I'm trying to find that balance. I very much want to be available for our people, our teams. That's first and foremost. But I think with my season, it's just learning how to navigate and to hold that leadership in the right way with where we're at. A funny story, I've shared this a lot. I knew it was time for me to retire. One day I came home. Kim and I have both talked about this even recently. I came home, walked through the door, and she's like, "How was your day?" And I said, "I got to get out of the way." That was my opening line. She's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I have got to get out of Staci's way because she is going to be 100 times the leader that I am. And if I stay in this place of quote unquote, I think it was CEO or whatever at the time we were calling it, it's going to create a lid." And that is problematic. That's that. And as committed and loyal as she may be, there will come a point every leader deals with it. I had dealt with that feeling in Indiana when I was on staff at a church. It's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to run. Yeah. And so that recognition of where she was headed in her leadership, I was like, okay, I got to get out of the way. And so I think that's sometimes where we in this organization, as we see people rising, if I could challenge even some of our senior leaders, I don't think they're doing this, but don't create the lids. Let people continue to rise and be a resource to them in that process. I've often said in Flywheel and in leadership settings, my job is to make you so good that you someday get a phone call from another organization seeking you to come and be a part of their organization. Yep. My dream is for our people to get headhunting calls. Now, that sounds crazy, but if I truly care about them as people and their growth, then eventually they're going to be good enough that someone in the industry will recognize it and go after them. Now, the second part of that is where I have a responsibility to the organization to make sure that any contribution I make, that we are making that organization so great that when that call comes from a headhunter or another organization, they don't have to even have a moment of struggling with that decision. Yeah. That they process it and say, I don't want to leave this organization. Right. I'm honored, but I don't want to leave this organization. And so that, I think that's the twofold mandate that sits on both Chuck and I, is to raise up great leaders and to raise our people up to where they are really sought out by others, but then to also make sure the organization continues to be amazing so that they don't even want to entertain whatever offer is coming at them. So that it's fun to watch. We've actually had a couple stories where that happened, and it's kind of I would love to tell you I was totally calm through those moments, and that my theory of making them so good headhunters would call or organizations would call that. Yeah, okay. Sure, there was anxiety. Sure, there was some anxiousness there. I hope they stay with us, but. If you say you're going to live open-handed and then you immediately clench your organizational hands, then frankly you're untruthful about that principle you claim to live by. So fortunately, those cases they chose to stay. But that really is a driving motivator for us as an organization, is to keep raising people up, not to create that lid. So I knew in that story I had to get out of the way and let her, and listen, the rest is history. You can just look at our data and see the growth of when I got out and what she's done. It's and I know it's not just Staci, the directors, our seniors, the whole team. I would put our team up against any other organization in this entire state all day long. because we have the best.
Yeah.
And I know that's going to go out to the World Wide Web, and I'm going to be probably challenged by other
the proof
organizations.
is in the pudding.
But I do believe you guys are rock stars.
Yeah.
And it's very humbling to be surrounded by rock stars like that.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
To me, I just have to say, you've planted a lot of seeds in a lot of people. And there's a reason why we are where we are. And, we wouldn't be where we are without you and Chuck setting all this up, having the leadership programs and pouring into our people and checking on our people. So, I mean, that's a testament to you. Everything you've poured in is why we are where we are. So, when you have that feeling that, you're out of touch or not, you don't have your purpose or, you've invested in it. And so everything you've done is just a trickle effect down to all of our team members and to the people that we serve and care for, whether it's our homes, our clients, people that we partner with in the community, however that looks like. So,
and I think that's, Whitley, you ask about a challenge. That's tough because sometimes in our seats, we're so insulated from the day-to-day and from the families that I get a little nervous that our families may not really know how much we do care about them. Mm-hmm. I get a little concerned that they may think we've forgotten them or we don't care, or that some of the newer homes that we haven't had a chance to meet maybe feel lost in things. But that is the complexity of an organization that grows large.
Yeah.
There's no way we could be at every event and touch every life and every home. Mm-hmm. And I think as a leader, you have to become comfortable with that. Yeah. Even though you don't like that feeling. Yeah. You have to be comfortable with knowing I can't be everywhere, but the team and the organization hopefully is letting them know our heart's coming through that. Yeah. So kind of random, but that was one of those heart moments. You kind of took me there, but it's we love all of you. We love not only our management team, but we love our homes and we love our people. Yeah. We are changing the world. Yeah. And man, I know I know at 2 a.m. when you're trying to find a young man in Kirksville, how lonely that can feel. I know how lonely it can feel when you're 6 hours driving between West Plains with an individual and the car dies between Dora and Kabul, I might add, and you're like, oh my goodness. I know those moments and how that feels, but I also know the reward on the other side of those moments, the joy that's deeper than just being happy. Yeah. There's a difference in happy and joy. Absolutely. So, I would say to our people, don't get discouraged. You are changing a life. You're changing the world. Yeah. You are rock stars. Mm-hmm. Our homes are rock stars. I mean, our homes are some of the best caregivers in the state of Missouri. Yeah. I mean, when I say the best team, I'm not just talking about our managers. I'm talking our homes, our relief homes. Yeah. Everyone are amazing. Yeah. Just amazing. So shout out to all of them. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. And I encourage anyone who's new to go to any party event that we have, because you'll get to meet these amazing people and build contacts with them and just relationships that you'll keep with you forever. Absolutely. Yeah. So to kind of wrap things up for our discussion today, can you tell me what is your most favorite thing that you love about Restoring Hope? The people. Yeah, and I've kind of been speaking to that, but people are why we're here. Yeah. And the people are what make any organization successful, but they're also what makes that organization possess its culture. Mm-hmm. We talk a lot about culture. Yep. In America and in corporate America. And people and the way you treat people and honor people And I'll put kind of maybe an odd statement together here. In our role, I think we're responsible to properly steward the resource of people.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at my role as an owner, it's not one of, I don't view our role as one of entitlements. I don't view it as positional. I think I've been in this industry enough now, 15 years. Well, if you add our host home time, we're probably 20 years in, close to that. I see a lot of moments where it seems in our industry we've lost our way. We make decisions that aren't decisions to steward people. We make decisions that are maybe driven by business mindsets, or maybe we make decisions that are, focused on, it's business or profits, or it could be, and I'm not pointing that at us. I think we are working very diligently not to make that our priority.
Yeah.
But I do, unfortunately, have a lot of exposure with other providers. And why would I say unfortunately? Because I see some of how people are treated.
Yeah.
I hear of stories across the state where people are dealing with a crisis and they're trying to reach support and nobody's answering their calls. It's hitting voicemail. I hear stories of where people are just stressed out of their mind because they're on 24-hour shifts and they're just kind of trying to survive that moment. And I think that is such poor stewardship of people.
Yeah.
And if people are your greatest renewable resource, then I think wise business leaders are very careful in how they steward that resource. And I feel confident that at Restoring Hope, I have a high level of confidence in our team to believe we're careful to try to make sure we're answering the calls. We're there when people are hurting.
Right.
We're trying to give grace when grace is needed. I think I can say that confidently about Restoring Hope. So I take great pride in that. I find myself smiling pretty widely when I think about what I believe is our stewardship of people, especially against the backdrop of what I see from other providers. And, full disclosure, some of those providers may be for-profit, they may be not-for-profit. And I just think that we unfortunately are in an industry that is crisis-ridden by its nature, solving problems. Hey, we got a problem, we have to solve a problem.
Right.
And somewhere in there, we've got to change our focus to remember this is at its core about the people we support who cannot support themselves.
Right.
Again, that is not pointed at us. That's our industry as a whole, and that could even go nationwide. So I feel great honor and pride in all of you that are watching and listening right now, because I believe we're setting a different standard in this industry. And when I'm asked, well, do you guys think you've saturated? Is there more growth? I think as long as you are stewarding that resource of people right, I don't see a limit to what you can do.
Right.
Because people want to be a part of it. I think of I want to say this very carefully. There's kind of a joke if you're on the state side or if you're on maybe even the TCM side of the dark side. That's the provider side.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to the dark side. And I understand where that's coming from. I've been in this long enough to know why they would say that. But I'm one of those guys that kind of am just like, okay, we accept that challenge. We're going to bring light to the dark side, as you all call it, and demonstrate to everyone on both sides of the proverbial line that this can be done well. This can be done well. It can be done with integrity. It can be done in a way that honors people. I think that's what I'm most proud of at Restoring Hope. I believe we are being that light in maybe less than ideal methodology in the way organizations steward their people. So I hope everyone out there that's listening to that's not hearing criticism, but hearing the heart of what we want to be about here at Restoring Hope. So,
absolutely. Jeff, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you.
This
is wonderful what you're doing for our organization, and I'm excited. I mean, this is the only one I've been a part of, so I'm anxious to see what content's getting ready to roll out. The reels have been kind of fun to watch here as you've dropped those. So I thank you. Yeah. This is going to be fun to just kind of see what we learn from one another through this process. So
absolutely. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.